everybody. I'm Christine Hernandez, Livestock Manager here for Heifer USA, and we are at Heifer Ranch. Today you are going to come along with me and do some pig chores in a 360-degree view. So I'm just going to walk you through my typical chore for pigs. We check our pigs every morning and every afternoon, so we see them twice a day. We do the same thing during both times, unless there's something special that needs to be done. We have a leaky water, or there's a pig out, or anything that we weren't planning for. We have 70 pigs in this batch behind me. They are nice and beautiful and big. They are all near that processing weight, and so they will go to processing here in the next week or so. And so come along with me and I'll show you my chores. So the first part of our chores, which is going to be one of the most important parts, is to check our fence. So the way I manage our pigs out in the trees and out on pasture is I have them behind some electric fence. And when we use the temporary poly wire and poly posts, at this size, I can take them down to one strand. You know, when they're new to being out on pasture and they're still getting used to it and learning what I expect of them, I have them behind 2 strands of poly wire. The height of the poly wire is going to be very important. So you want it to be nice and visible for them, for when they're standing and looking, and also when they're down rooting at the ground. So we will check our voltage of our temporary fence. And I have it hooked up to this Gallagher charger, the S100. I like to always have it on the wildlife setting because that sends out the voltage more frequently than if it was on the livestock setting. We always have our solar charger facing south so that it gets as much sunlight during the day as possible. So let's go ahead and test this and see what we got. So this one is 5.1, 5.3. So that's a good voltage to keep pigs behind the wire. You can see they're keeping their distance from it, so they know what happens when they accidentally touch it. Hey piggies. The next part of our fence is I walk the perimeter during every chore time. So pigs love to root around. You can see all these pigs here. That's exactly what they're doing. They have a very strong nose. They're rooting around, seeing what they can find, roots, bugs, super good things in the soil. We want them to display all of their natural behavior. So we encourage them to root around like that. As a result of that happening, sometimes they will accidentally root things on top of our wire that will either cause it to short out or dip down or anything like that, and that could allow pigs to get out. So we will go ahead and we just walk our fence. The pigs will probably come along with us, and then we'll come back. We can look at our feeders, our huts. We'll run into our watering system. You can see they've really enjoyed this corner back here. There's something back here that they really, really liked. They did a whole bunch of rooting around. You can see some tree limbs and such that they chewed up too. So when I do my fencing, we have our spacing so that it's 50 pigs per half acre. And I like to have 4 sides to each paddock, and the way I do that is each side is going to be independent, getting set up, and then I connect them with some power to power clips or some alligator clips. That way the voltage from this fence is transferred to this fence, and they're all connected for the voltage. But say a pig accidentally gets out, I could choose any corner of our paddock to get that pig back in, simply by disconnecting these and opening up the corner to encourage that pig to go inside with the rest of the group. Okay, we're going through the trees here, so it's going to be a little shaded. Might get hit in the face by a tree limb or two. Are y'all coming with us? You can come with us. Come on. Yeah. So the pigs have been in this paddock for 2 days now. I tend to keep them in the same paddock for about 7 days. And that is just an estimate. It can go anywhere from 5 days to 10 days. It's going to depend on a few different factors. Those factors will be, what is the weather like? You know, are we going to get a whole bunch of rain where their paddock is going to turn muddy very quickly? If that's the case, then I'll move them as soon as that needs to happen. So that could be at 4 days once they're in a paddock. When they're this size, you know, they cause a little bit more disturbance on the ground. So I keep to that 7 days or sooner. When they're smaller and first out on pasture, you know, say they're 60 pounds or so, you know, we could leave them in a paddock for 10 days because they won't cause as much disturbance because they're not as big of animals at that time. So this fence is looking good. I don't see any issues. Hi. You're okay. Yes, excuse me. So this brings us up to our watering system and our pig bucket is what I like to call it. And so I like to have 2 of these 50-gallon Rubbermaid water tanks per 50 pigs. Since we have 70 pigs in here, I have 2 water tanks. I just connect them to a multiple hose connection there. And then I dump them out and I move them down the fence every day. It doesn't matter if it's in the morning or in the afternoon, as long as it's done once a day. Because you can see that this guy here, he's drinking and then he's dropping some water, and it just causes some disturbance and mud and a little bit of a mess right in front of that water tank. So I like to dump it out to give them 1, fresh water, and 2, to move that disturbance down that fence line a little bit. In the summertime, you know, they can really dig down right in front of the water there like that guy is right now, you know, and they can create a huge hole right there in no time at all. So I try and prevent that in front of the waterers. So we will go ahead and just dump them out, move them down the fence line a little bit, get them reconnected, and the pigs will have nice fresh water. I made these water tanks after raising pigs on pasture for a few years. I've tried a lot of different water designs, and this is the best I came up with. We also have a video on that, but I have electric fence insulators screwed on top of the water tank so that our electric fence can go over top of it, and that will prevent the pigs from getting into the water and messing with the float valve or breaking it at all. So no matter how often you dump their water, give them fresh water and move it, it's always going to get dirty. So the pigs are rooting around in the dirt and in the mud, and then they come and drink some water, and they basically clean off their nose and their mouth with their drinking water. So that's why it's important to dump it out, rinse it out, give them fresh water, because they can make it dirty real fast, can't you? I always make sure that the water tanks are level or that the float valve is at the lowest point. That way it's not going to overflow on us. So we just put the electric wire back on our insulators and we're good to go. It's about 47 degrees outside and our little buddy thinks he needs a wallow. Don't ya? Okay, so here we ran into what I call my pig bucket. We also have a little short video on this as well, but inside of it is just about everything I would need down here if something was broken or if there was a pig out or who knows what's going to happen. So we have our hammer, our spray paint, our rattle can, scrub brush, a whole little pouch of water fix-it tools, and then our kitty litter scoop and scraper. So let's make our way over to our feeders and I'll show you what I do with these. And so this fence I'm walking by right here, you can tell it's a little bit different than that temporary fence we walked by earlier. So this is the start of a pig demo site that we're creating. And so we are taking material and creating a big 10-acre section with 3 strands of permanent fence. And then we have posts that mark in the front and in the far back to make 1-acre paddocks. And it will all be connected and on a charger. And then I will use that single strand or 2-strand poly wire and make 1-acre paddocks, or depending on how many number of pigs I have, will determine the size of that paddock. But yeah, so that's what we've been working on. We'll definitely show you all that once it's finished. So we're coming up to our feeders. I use the same calculation for the feeders as I do the waterers. So 1 feeder per 50 pigs, 1 waterer per 50 pigs. Like I said, this group has 70 pigs in it, so we have 2 feeders. I really like the Osborne big wheel bulk feeder. It's made to be out on pasture. We also have a video showing these feeders in a little bit more detail. So the feed section of our chores is we want to look inside here and see what our feed inventory is. So that's like 3/4 of the way full. I try and feed them only twice a week, usually like Monday and then Friday so that it'll get through the weekend and no one will have to feed them then. And that schedule works really great for us. This feeder is a great example of how I want the feeders to be calibrated. So what the pigs have to do is they have to come in here and they have to push this trough arm with their nose, and then once they push that, feed gets dispensed from underneath, and then they can eat it like that. You want to limit the amount of feed the pigs are wasting as much as possible. That's going to be your number one cost for raising pigs, is to feed them. So you can see if that got eaten right there. You know, they're going to reach in and eat that nice fresh grain coming out under the hopper. And so you want to make sure that there's no feed getting built up in this trough. I don't like the feed to come past this ledge right here. Of course, you can't always help that, so I just come in and I use my hand and I just push it all back, and then they can come up and eat it that way. Hi. So we can go check our other feeder. Yes. This one is a little bit more dented. Got banged up a little bit. that happens on a farm. So this feed inventory is about the same as the last, about 3/4 full. So that will get us through to the weekend. And you can see this one is a little bit different than that last feeder. A lot of the feed is out here on the outside of the trough. You know, I don't like that. So I'm gonna push it back in, and we probably need to lower our feed cone on the inside. That determines how much feed it lets down as they spin that feed arm. No waste in food, please. No waste in food. Yeah. You say hi? So I'm just going to lower this arm a little bit. It's a little dented. There. So that will let out less feed, so less of it will get wasted. Okay, and then the last of our chores is going to be their huts and hay. So now that we have officially entered into fall, getting closer to winter, the temperatures have really decreased in the evening and throughout the night. So I've placed out here multiple huts. These are just Porta huts. We get them from the Porta Hut Company out of Iowa. They come in one piece already assembled. You just unload them off the trailer and they are ready to go. And then we have just big bales of hay that we bring out. That way it's always here. It's really easy to just unwrap some, throw it in each hut to give them some bedding to get them through the night. And then you can see, if I step back a little bit, you know, you can see they've made a little area around the bale and going to their huts. So not all the pigs are going to fit in those huts, and that's okay. Not all the pigs want to be in a hut. You know, I'll come out here bright and early in the morning. There may be 3 pigs in one hut, 7 pigs in another, you know, 1 pig in another. So it all depends. We want to give them options. A lot of them actually really just like to hang out around the hay bale themselves. So they can do whatever they'd like. Excuse me, honey. There's always some that come and try and help me with this chore. They're usually not the biggest helpers, but I enjoy the company. And the pigs are actually really good at making their own beds. They'll come grab some mouthfuls of hay, take it where they want it. That's how sows make their nests for farrowing time, collecting stuff with their mouths. Hi, helpers. Thank you. Yeah, I'm taking that. Excuse me. Thank you. So whenever we move the pigs to a new paddock, like I said, I've been in this one for 2 days. They've done a pretty good job of knocking down some things, eating the grass. Pigs absolutely love to go out and forage. So when they go to a new paddock, all the stuff goes with them. We use the pallet forks on a tractor to move it all. We drag the waters by hand. When we move those huts, they're really long. I believe they're 11 feet long and 6 feet wide. I have pieces of 4-inch PVC that I put onto the pallet forks as extenders, and then I can just go right, pull up right to the hut, put these inside along the roof of the hut, lift it up, and then just carefully walk it down or drive it down to their next paddock. And so when they are done with here and they get moved down, we move everything. We'll pick up their fence, the temporary fence that they're using, and then we'll also plant some cover crops. And so if we come over here, this is a section that they were in not too long ago, and we just broadcasted some cover crops behind them. If you broadcast those cover crops, the day the pigs leave, the day after they leave, when that soil is still freshly disturbed, you get some really good growth behind those pigs. And so you can see how well they've cleared this land and how well those cover crops are coming up all along over there. So before these pigs move to their next paddock, we are actually going to take them to our corral so that we can get a really good weight on them so we know if they'll be ready for processing or not. And so we just have an alley set up along that road with just the same poly posts that we use for their paddock and a single strand of wire, and they'll follow that all the way to the corral. Very easy setup. I like it to be about the width of the road, 12 or 15 feet or so the pigs can travel, a few next to each other, and then they just follow each other. If you give them too big of a space, they tend to mess around a little bit more, root in, exploring, and then some of them can actually try and turn around and come back to the paddock where they were. And if you have this alley set up, when you're done weighing them, when you're bringing them back to their paddock, you can just open it up and the pigs will follow this all the way back to where they started. They like to go in the direction in which they came. Well, that is pig chores here at Heifer Ranch. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I hope you had a great 360-degree experience.
Ready for another 360-degree farm tour? Then join Christine as she cares for our sheep flock on pasture. Or learn the easiest way to move pigs from paddock to paddock with this step-by-step guide.